Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Ladies and gentlemen, you know how I'm always telling you that the Federal Reserve note, i.e. the US dollar, that it's not really going to cease being the world reserve currency, but that the biggest threat that I'll call it the dollar, okay, that the dollar has is that it is going to continue to be devalued at a faster and faster rate. I think it was Ernest Hemingway, one of my community members, sent me a message saying, when I asked who was that author that said that when he went bankrupt very slowly, very gradually, and then all at once. I think that's the name I remember seeing from the message that I got from one of you all. But that's what's going to happen with the dollar eventually, unless of course they put us in one of these beast systems like a CBDC. But let's hope that that does not come to fruition. The real threat is a market-driven dollar downgrade. And of course, you all probably know that I believe it was sometime middle or late last week that the Fitch rating agency went ahead and downgraded the United States to a AA+ from a AAA status, which in my opinion is a pretty big downgrade, but it's not really going to affect how the US can borrow, but it will affect how much interest we will have to pay on the debt, putting more of a load on the shoulders of you, the taxpayers, to have to be able to service that debt. Last week, Fitch Ratings downgraded the U.S. long-term credit rating from AAA to AA+. While the downgrade won't significantly impact the U.S. government's ability to borrow, it should serve as a wake-up call because there is much bigger problem looming on the horizon, a market-driven downgrade of the U.S. dollar. See what they're saying here? They're not saying that the dollar is going to collapse. It's just that the market is going to go ahead and decide, A, the US dollar is too risky, so you're going to have to either give us more interest so that we can lend you some money, or you're going to have to devalue your dollar by creating more out of thin air, i.e. inflation, superinflation, hyperinflation, and therefore you'll be able to still use dollars and not technically default, but reduce the value of the dollar, making even more people not want to hoard it or even hold it. Obviously, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to read the entire article verbatim, but I am going to go ahead and leave a link to this article on a pinned comment so that you can come and revisit it if you like. And I almost forgot. Let me thank the sponsor of this video, which is ITM Trading, and there will be more on ITM Trading later on. Now, real quick, if you all do not know who ITM Trading is, make sure you go and take a look at their YouTube channel because they have an awesome crew over there and they provide a very good service that they've been doing for a long time. I think like 27 years or so. But like I said, we'll talk about them later on. Let me go ahead and cover this right here. In just 2 months since Congress reached a deal and suspended the debt ceiling for 2 years, the national debt has surged by a staggering $1.2 trillion, and the borrowing isn't going to slow down anytime soon. Last week, the Treasury Department upped its projection for third quarter debt issuance to $1.01 trillion. That is up from $733 billion Q3 projection imagined in May. And even in May, $733 billion projection for the third quarter spending. It's like, oh my goodness, how in the world can you spend that much? But now it's over $1 trillion, ladies and gentlemen. Let me explain to you why it is, in my opinion, that the United States will never default on the dollar, but they default on the definition of what a dollar is every single day. See, the reason that they won't default on a dollar is because they'll always be able to print dollars. So if they tell Joe Schmo that they're going to borrow $1 trillion from him and pay him back in 20 years, if we're still around here in 20 years, that is, they'll be able to just print that money and give it to Joe Schmo in addition to whatever interest he earned for lending that money for the last 20 years. They'll be able to just print it. But this is where they default, all right? They default because every time they print money out of thin air that was never worked into existence, it makes all of those other dollars, including those dollars that they printed on there, worth less than they were before. So they're really defaulting every single day. Think about that, ladies and gentlemen. Every time that you have to go in and punch a clock from 9 to 5 every day just so that you can earn a living. And here they explain that rising interest rates make a soft landing, tackling inflation without a recession, less likely because they are problematic for everyone, and rising interest rates are problematic for everyone. The government does not want interest rates to be up because it doesn't want to have to pay more to service the debt. Why? Because there's only so much that the average citizen, right, will take as far as having to pay taxes, all right? And then the government also knows that if they can't tax the average citizen, the average taxpayer, so that they can service the debt, they're going to have to create that money out of thin air, creating even more debt. Let's go ahead and cover what the Fitch downgrade and what the bigger problem is. With the current debt ceiling fight resolved, Fitch removed the U.S.'s issuer default rating from watch negative to a stable outlook. But the end of the debt ceiling standoff wasn't enough to alleviate fears about America's debt trajectory, meaning that our debt trajectory only has one way to go. There's absolutely no way in this physical world that our debt can be paid off. Absolutely no way, ladies and gentlemen. It's impossible. Physically impossible to literally pay off our debt. So whenever they say, hey, we're going to pay off our debt, can't be done unless they get rid of the dollar. The only way that we can pay off our debt is if we get rid of the Federal Reserve note, and there is something else. The repeated debt limit political standoff and last-minute resolutions have eroded confidence in fiscal management. This according to Fitch, and this is why they lowered our rating. Nevertheless, the markets generally brush off the Fitch downgrade, and in the big scheme of things, it is irrelevant, and I have to agree. It doesn't even make sense to apply a credit rating on the United States government, and it doesn't. After you hear this, I think you'll agree. The point of a rating is to indicate the likelihood of default. Nobody is really worried about the U.S. government defaulting because the Federal Reserve can always create more money. But that doesn't mean that there is no risk in buying U.S. Treasuries, and here they say why. And that risk applies to any bond you buy in U.S. dollars or with U.S. dollars. It doesn't matter how creditworthy the issuer of the bond happens to be. In fact, the same risk applies if you take your dollars and stuff them under the mattress. And why is that, ladies and gentlemen? The word that probably everyone in the United States knows by now, that is inflation, or the risk of inflation. I wouldn't even say the risk of inflation because inflation is guaranteed. Every day your dollar is going to lose purchasing power, whether you have it in a bond or whether you have it in your mattress, under your bed, wherever.
With rising inflation, bank failures, and massive layoffs across multiple sectors, the future of the economy remains uncertain. It's no wonder the central banks have been getting prepared by stockpiling gold. At ITM Trading, we have spent over 27 years building a team of seasoned researchers and analysts who can help you prepare for any financial crisis. Our experts are ready to provide you with proven strategies to safeguard your wealth and assets in the event of an economic downturn or currency reset, which is frankly inevitable. Don't wait until it's too late. Schedule your free gold and silver strategy call by clicking on the link in the description below.
Dollar depreciation is just like a default. If a government has to resort to a printing press to pay off its bills, you still get your money back when the government bond matures, but you lose purchasing power. This is what I've been telling you all for years now. The dollars you get back won't buy you as much stuff. And that purchasing power that you lose, ladies and gentlemen, is equivalent to your labor. Why? Because your salaries, your wages, they never keep up with inflation. They never have. And here, finishing it off, so an honest rating of the U.S. government debt would be junk status. Not because of the default risk, but because of the high likelihood that it will continue to inflate away the dollar's value. And he says here, in fact, we're insulting to junk status. You are guaranteed to lose with a long-term U.S. Treasury. There is no chance that you will buy a 30-year Treasury with a yield of just above 4% today and break even at the end of that term. Meaning that even if you buy a 30-year Treasury, that by the time that you cash in your money after that 30 years, there's no way that you would have been able to keep up with inflation. Even though they tell you, hey, our target inflation is 2% or 2.3%, 3%, even if they tell you that, there's no way that you will keep up with inflation, even at a 4% yield from a bond. There's no way, ladies and gentlemen. It hasn't happened and it won't happen. The only thing that a bond guarantees you is that you get back those dollars that you loan the government along with those 1 or 2%, but it will not guarantee you how much those dollars will be able to buy you, in contrast to what they were able to buy you when you first made the loan to the government. And they say the bottom line is the rating is meaningless. All U.S. government debt is junk. People need to get out of the dollar-denominated debt as quickly as they can. And when they say get out of dollar-denominated debt, ladies and gentlemen, this is a dollar-denominated debt. This $20 Federal Reserve note is a dollar-denominated debt. You know why? Because this is debt. This is debt. This is a promissory note. This has only the value that someone who you're trading it with thinks it has, and or the value that your government tells you it has, because you have to use it to pay taxes. So I think that I will stick with gold and silver, and I think that I will be able to use that gold and silver should I ever need it, all right, in any circumstance, in any country. And if I never need it, I will say thank you very much, Lord, and I'll die an easier death when I finally die one day and leave that to my children. Now go ahead and take a look at ITM Trading if you're in a position where you have money that's sitting under your bed and you would like to put it into real money, not fiat currency, real money instead. Have a great day, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for always being here whenever I put out a video. God bless every one of you. God bless America. I'm Alaska Prepper. I'm out.